Well, I've heard 3 times this morning that I'm called to come get this picture off the wall. And in case no other thought will come until I do that, that's what I'm going to do. So it's a picture that I understand has been here in the church for a really long time.
Yes.
And it says, God is love. Somebody said a very long time. So here, we're going to put it here for today. And so maybe that's a visual reminder for each of us that we're called to be love in all the many ways it shows up. All those beautiful ways that Angela sang about and that you shared. There's a line that she sang in the song, I am the living, breathing God. And I know for many years when I heard that line in the song, there was still that part of me in the back of my mind that goes, I don't know about that. I'm the living, breathing God. I don't know. Am I alone in having that response? When I hear that phrase, even some days. And then I remember, oh, well, God is love. And if I'm called to be the living, breathing God, I'm called to be love. And I can do that. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Each and every one of us can do that. We can radiate that love. So on to the topic of preparation that I did do for today's talk. One of the reasons that we can be that love is that there's only one mind. This is the latest book by MD Larry Dossey, who's done lots of research on prayer and his understanding and the scientific proof of our connectedness. Our connectedness not only to the one mind, to the one presence, to the one essence of life, also the one mind that we all share, the mind of God, the mind of love. So we as a spiritual community are in the month of January reviewing and renewing our understanding of our core unity principles. What are those things that are essential to our unity walk? Sometimes they're called the 5 principles or the 5 guiding ideas. This week we're focusing on sacred tools. The tools that we have in unity really are stemming from how we began with a woman who had a diagnosis and she learned a process of changing her mind. So I'll back up a little bit. In unity, we say there's one presence and one power. That's the first belief. The second is that presence and power lives within us as our innate divine potential. The third principle is that we create our experience by the reactions through thoughts and feelings that we hold in our body. I'll say that one again. We create the experience of life. Not we create the circumstances of life. We create the experience of life based on the reactions, thoughts, feelings that we hold in our mind and our bodies. And the fourth one is that prayer and meditation are the tools that help us navigate the world around us. So if there's only one mind, how do we have the experience of the chaos that we see? I don't know about you, but I have days and sometimes weeks where I just can't see past a momentary feeling of despair. of why would someone choose to hurt another. I've been reading a book. This is not really a bookstore plug, but apparently it is today. So this is available in the bookstore, One Mind. And another book that we just recently ordered called Consciousness is Everything. And I've been spending time with this book for the last several weeks. And in the book, and it's written from a very Eastern perspective, so a lot of it's yogic terminology that I'm not even familiar with, but there's something in there. And the phrase and the story that spoke to me this week to really work with is, how do we wrap our mind in consciousness around what's happening and then move through that to that place of spiritual truth? And in this book, the author proposes that it's sort of like a 2-year-old. A 2-year-old who really has begun to discover, what did we call it when my daughter was 2? The joy of her strong will. Okay? Sometimes we call it willfulness. In my household, we were really clear, the joy of strong will. So a 2-year-old really knows what they want, when they want it, how they want it. And they don't like it when they don't get it the way they want it when they want it. Right? And so we kind of laugh about that and, developmentally, from a psychology perspective, we know that that's okay. However, in the world, we have a whole lot of moments where others and ourselves forget that we're not 2. And while this is humorous, it's really quite deep, because what happens is we have grown-up strategies laced on top of a paradigm of a 2-year-old. We have grown-up strategies that say, if I just make enough money, I can buy whatever I want. We have a grown-up strategy that says, if you don't give me what I want, I'm going to use intimidation to get it. We have a grown-up strategy that says, I don't get what I want, well, I'm going to strike fear in the hearts of not necessarily an individual, but a community. Because all of our actions have ramifications that ripple out. And so while it may sound like Jennifer's harping a little bit on some negativity, I'm asking us in unity to remember that while we have tools of prayer and meditation, before we ever come to the practice of that, we get to acknowledge what is. And we don't acknowledge what is by thinking, what in my consciousness did I hold so that this experience could be what's happening? That is a misuse of our metaphysical power. And yet I know it happens. I get the phone calls. I hear it on Sunday morning here. And I have moments where that's where I go in my own mind. And so shifting from that blame, shifting from an awareness of a thought that I'm an individual, and so I'm on this journey by myself, and I'm making all these things happen, I remember that there's one mind and I am part of it. That there is a consciousness that lives and breathes in our community, and that what I contribute to it makes a difference. Once we acknowledge what is, once we're willing to say, this is the experience that I'm having, this is the emotional response that's coming up for me, then we breathe into it. We don't have to make it go away. We don't have to go shopping so that we forget about it. We don't have to do all those other things that as an addictive culture we do. Because we just want to get away from the way we're feeling. Because somewhere along the road, from the time we're 2 to the time we're now, if we're not feeling good, something must be absolutely wrong. What if the way in which we feel is just the way in which we feel? And we breathe into that experience. And then we choose consciously to change our mind. And then we choose to practice one of our tools of prayer and meditation, a denial and an affirmation. And friends, this is something that we get to use every day, all day long. We simply acknowledge what is and deny its power over us. We don't deny that it is happening. We deny the power that radio story has over us in the moment while we're driving and we hear that terrible news. Because once we deny the power it has over us, we can shift into and align with spiritual truth, which is in the midst of whatever's occurring. Whether it's the busted water pipe, the smell in the quay house that we cannot find the source for, the situation on the news. Whatever it is, in the midst of that, the presence and power of God, of love, is present. There is no place where that presence is absent. For you see, we've spent a lot of time as a human experience just forgetting and buying into the illusion of separation. Buying into the illusion that there is not enough love, not enough time, not enough money, not enough whatever, not enough jobs. A shift in that is, there are enough jobs, and what does my soul want to invest its energy in doing every day? And that can be a challenging and sometimes scary place to walk. So if we have a feeling of anxiousness when we think about a shift in our life like that, we acknowledge the experience, breathing into it, and we change our mind. We deny the power that feeling has to change our actions from our goal, from that place in which our soul is calling us to move. Let me say it another way. In Unity, we often talk about divine will, that there's a will that is beneath our personal intention. The phrase sometimes we'll hear is, "Thy will be done." Well, there's elements of truth to that. And sometimes when we're on our knees, the prayer, "Thy will be done," is right where we need to be. And in Unity, in our prayer and meditation practice, the idea that "Thy will is done," or "Thy will be done," is let my awareness in my human capacity in this moment shift from my personal will that's invested in the illusion. Let that be smaller, and the divine will that lives within me, that is part of my divine nature, let that rise and float to the surface of my awareness. Again, it doesn't mean that we're not going to have moments of seeming discomfort. In Unity, we don't like the word suffering. We don't like the word struggle. We don't like the word pain. I don't like the word pain. So whatever phrase is gentle for you, that allows you to acknowledge the experience that you're having. Because what happens when we align ourselves with that truth teaching, that there's one presence and one power, and it is in the midst of that situation, is that we can have a moment of realization. We can have a moment of realizing that the peace that we seek is already right here. We don't have to go get it. We don't have to beg for it. It's right here. The peace that we seek, the peace that we sing about at the end of every Sunday service. Somebody said to me one day, why do we sing "Let There Be Peace on Earth"? I said, because we need to remind ourselves before we walk through the door and get in our car and drive on the highway that peace begins right here. It begins right here. Someone said to me once, so what do I do when I pray and I meditate and I don't feel the peace? I said, you go back and you sit and you wait. Or you symbolically sit as you're doing your daily activities, and you don't go ahead and plan out what's going to occur in that area of your life, because you are sitting in the awareness of God is love. Of that love of God lives within me and guides me in every decision and in every circumstance. Ernest Wilson, who is a longtime Unity teacher, he taught at Unity School for over 50 years. He really drank the Kool-Aid. But this is what he said. I can't imagine that. 50 years. I love Unity Village, but I live here for a reason. Anyway. Shh, this is taped. Ooh. Ernest Wilson said this in his book, Soul Power. Somewhere in all effectual prayer and in every quiet miracle of answered prayer, a point of release can be discovered, a point in time where the one who is praying experiences a sense of assurance. A sense of assurance, that peace that passes all understanding. And here's what I invite you to know for today, friends, is that all of us have moments where we may be sitting and we can't seem to find that peace. That's why we have spiritual community. We have prayer chaplains that have on purple sashes that are here to pray with you every Sunday. They will stand in faith and affirm peace is possible, love is present for whatever's occurring for you. We don't have to do it alone. Come on Wednesday night for a little time with Peter Adams in mindfulness meditation to build your muscle of meditation. I went to a class this past week, an exercise class called Pure Barre, and I've been waiting for this place in King Farm to open. I haven't been to a Pure Barre class in 2 years. What was I thinking? That I would just get in there and do exactly as I did 2 years ago. Not quite. Because those muscles in that way have not been used. So come on Wednesday night. Build your mindfulness meditation tool. Come on Friday night. Be part of the pastoral care ministry service. Come be lifted in another experience of the Lord's Prayer as it's shared in the original language that we believe Jesus probably spoke. That's why we have spiritual community, to remind ourselves that we don't have to do it alone. And aren't we grateful for spiritual community? Can I get an amen? Amen. Let us take a moment and anchor in prayer. The living, loving presence that is always within us and around us. We are filled with gratitude, and we open our hearts and minds to know that this awareness lifts us, renews us, restores us, and prepares us for all that is ours to do this week. And for doing it together as spiritual community, we give thanks. So it is. Amen.